Before sunrise, the monastery was already awake, not with noise, not with spectacle, but with waiting. People had come to Optina from across Russia, peasants, widows, nobles, students, writers, soldiers, skeptics, and broken souls who had run out of answers. They were not waiting for a lecturer. They were waiting for one sick monk in a small cell. His name was Ambrose. His body was weak. His health was ruined. He often lived in pain. And yet, day after day, people came to him as if to a spiritual hospital. Some came with grief. Some came with sin. Some came with impossible decisions. Some came only because they had heard that this elder could see the human heart without crushing it. Ambrose was not born in a monastery. He was born Alexander Grinkov in 1812 in the Tambov province, into a priestly family. He was intelligent, lively, and gifted. At seminary, he stood among the better students. Then illness struck. It was serious enough that Alexander made a promise: if God spared his life, he would become a monk. He recovered, and then, like many people who make promises in fear, he tried to return to ordinary life. He became a teacher. He delayed. He hesitated, but the promise followed him. In 1839, after seeking counsel from a hermit, he was told to go to Optina Pustin. There, the life he had tried to postpone finally began. Optina was not famous because its monks were efficient. It was famous because people believed that there, in the silence of prayer, certain elders had become physicians of the soul. An elder was not simply an old monk. He was a spiritual father formed by obedience, suffering, prayer, and discernment. People did not come to him for vague inspiration. They came for a word. Sometimes the word was gentle. Sometimes it was sharp. Sometimes it was only a blessing or silence or a letter sent after long prayer. Ambrose learned under the Optina tradition of eldership, and after Elder Macarius reposed, Ambrose became the monastery's principal spiritual father. From that point, silence became almost impossible for him. The official life of St. Ambrose gives a startling picture of his day. His cell attendant woke him around 4 in the morning for the prayer rule. After tea, he dictated replies to letters. Visitors were already waiting. He received people through the morning, rested briefly when he could, then received more in the afternoon and evening. At night, after dinner, still more visitors came. Around 11, the evening prayers were read. He begged forgiveness from the brethren for any offense in thought, word, or deed. Then, after only a few hours of sleep, the same life began again. This was not productivity. It was sacrifice. He had once said that the Lord had arranged for him to talk to people all his life. He would have preferred silence, but love kept opening the door. Many of Ambrose's conversations did not happen face to face. They happened by letter. People wrote to him because they were afraid, angry, sick, confused, or ashamed. His replies were not abstract essays. They were medicine measured for the person in front of him. To one soul he might speak about patience, to another humility, to another the danger of judging. Again and again his counsel returned to the same hard truths: do not trust your own pride too quickly, do not condemn your neighbor, bear what God permits without despair, and begin again. The letters show why people trusted him. He did not flatter them, but he also did not abandon them. One of the most famous visitors to Optina was Fyodor Dostoevsky. In 1878, after the death of his young son Alyosha, Dostoevsky came to the monastery and met St. Ambrose. He was not coming as a tourist. He was coming as a grieving father. The meeting affected him deeply. Later, readers would see an echo of Ambrose in the figure of Starets Zosima in the Brothers Karamazov. That does not mean the novel is a transcript. It is not, but it shows the cultural force of Optina. The elders' cell was not only changing peasants and widows, it was touching the imagination of Russia itself. The power of Ambrose's counsel was not that every answer sounded the same. It was that each person seemed to be seen. The educated received one kind of word. The simple received another. A grieving mother did not need the same medicine as a proud intellectual. A monk in temptation did not need the same word as a merchant crushed by family conflict. This is why the Optina elders were remembered as conversers with angels, but also as men intensely attentive to ordinary human pain. Ambrose's miracles were not always dramatic. Sometimes the miracle was that a person walked into his cell as a sealed room and left with one window open toward repentance. There is a temptation to imagine saints as people who never broke down, never tired, never suffered from their own bodies. Ambrose destroys that illusion. He was often physically weak. His illness did not disappear simply because he became holy. Instead, weakness became the place where his love was tested. The question was not whether he had enough strength for everyone. He did not. The question was whether grace could pass through a man who had already spent himself. Day after day, that is what happened at Optina. Saint Ambrose reposed in 1891, but the line outside the cell did not truly end. His letters remained. The memory of his counsel remained. Optina remained in Christian memory as a place where the wounds of the soul were not mocked or simplified. People came there because they believed holiness could answer pain without turning it into theory. That is why Ambrose still matters. In a world full of noise, he is a witness that one word spoken from prayer can do what 1,000 opinions cannot. It can call a soul back to life. The story of Saint Ambrose is not only a story about old Russia. It is a question for anyone who gives counsel, asks for counsel, or suffers in silence. What would it mean to listen as if the person in front of you were eternal? What would it mean to speak less from cleverness and more from prayer? Ambrose did not build a brand. He did not chase influence. He sat in a cell, answered letters, received the wounded, and gave away the little strength he had. And because of that, the weak monk of Optina became one of the strongest voices in Russia's spiritual memory. After Ambrose reposed, the stories did not stop. Pilgrims continued to speak of help received through his prayers, a hardened heart softened, a desperate family given strength, a soul pulled back from despair, an illness met not always with spectacle, but with peace and courage. These accounts belong to the living memory of the Church. They are not presented here as courtroom exhibits, but as witness. People came to Ambrose wounded, and many believed they left touched by mercy. That is why his name still draws people to Optina. Not because he promised an easy life, but because he showed that holiness can become a door through which grace enters ordinary suffering. This is the Saints. Stories of holiness, suffering, courage, and grace. Subscribe for the next life.